So what is cauliflower ear? Is it a fancy Mediterranean dish? Is it how vegetables wear AirPods? Or is it an overwhelming urge that takes over a grown man's body and causes them to take a bite out of another man's ear? With so many questions, I turn to the most reliable source that I know, WebMD. And WebMD told me that the term cauliflower ear refers to a deformity of the ear caused by blunt trauma or other injury, such as what may occur during a boxing or wrestling match. Left untreated, the injury leads to a blockage that prevents blood flow and damages tissue. This results in a bumpy or lumpy appearance of part of the ear similar to a cauliflower. Okay, so I know what cauliflower ear is, and I'm actually kind of obsessed with cauliflower ear. I'm an ear addict. I can't believe I just said that. From the time I first heard about cauliflower ear watching the UFC as a kid with my dad, I became enthralled with looking at fighters' ears, and it just made me wonder how could they get that way. But today I myself have cauliflower ear, and although the swelling has gone down quite a bit from when it first happened, I'm surrounded by people that have cauliflower ear all the time, and it's kind of taken away the fascination. But for anyone out there who wants to know more, let's dive into the fascinating world of cauliflower ear.
Hey Greg, do you want some cheese sauce with that great big piece of produce on your head? Or, hey, does anybody have a vegetable tray? Well, we could just use Greg's ear instead.
It turns out this condition can happen to anybody who plays contact sports, but it's way more common in combat athletes, especially grappling athletes that do judo, jiu-jitsu, or wrestling. And it's easy to see why when you think about a wrestler who leads with their head and usually the side of their head where their ear is on a traditional takedown. And then if you imagine the same thing in a jiu-jitsu gi where it's like rubbing up against sandpaper. I mean, just listen to that. It's easy to see how this can happen. And it got me wondering how long this condition has been around for, which led me to uncover something pretty wild. And that's that ancient Greek statues have been portraying this phenomenon since all the way back in 300 BC, which is about 2,322 years ago. Or if you think about it, like every generation lives for about 100 years, that's like 23 people ago that people were making statues of cauliflower ear, including Boxer at Rest, one of the most famous and rare ancient Greek sculptures in the history of the world because it's made fully of bronze. Boxer at Rest is a full-size statue showing a man who likely fought in arenas for a living as a prize fighter. The era the statue was made is around the time ancient Greek boxing was becoming pancration, a sport that combines boxing with wrestling and is still practiced today with slightly different rules. And the combination of striking and grappling in pancration is really what inspired modern-day MMA and would explain the cauliflower ear that the weathered old boxer has in the statue. He's also wearing leather gloves called hemantas, which are basically leather straps that they wrapped around their knuckles and used to protect their hands. Some of the beauty of the piece is that the man is seated seemingly in a defeated and tired pose, as opposed to depicting a champion in victory with his arms over his head. The man has cuts, a broken nose, and of course all eyes are on the swollen and inflamed ears that are very similar to those that you see in the era of pro fighting today. What's interesting is some people even believe the cuts on the ear could be incisions, as if the ear would to have been drained like we do in modern medicine today to treat cauliflower ears. Which is pretty crazy when you think about how long ago that was, and to me it seems like those are probably just scratches from the fight. But who knows? If you go back to the WebMD page for the condition, it recommends draining the fluid that fills up within 1 to 7 days of the flare-up because the swollen area begins to harden after that amount of time, and you're stuck with how it looks indefinitely. And that's what happened to me because I never drained mine. Luckily, the swelling went down quite a bit and it really doesn't look too severe anymore, and I haven't had too many flare-ups since. But it's pretty interesting how hard my ear is now, and it almost feels like there's little stones and crystals in there.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And it also interestingly made my ear super stiff in comparison to my other one, which really doesn't have too much cauliflower ear at all. And the idea of draining your ears with a needle has of course birthed an amazing internet trend that I just love watching. Something about watching the ear shrink as the needle fills with blood and whatever else is in there is just so satisfying to me, and I can't get enough of these videos.
Just breathe out.
Mom, can you just fucking do it?
Breathe out.
Can you stop telling me to breathe out, bro?
I'm telling you what they tell me.
No, like, yeah, when you're fucking...
When you're in pain.
You're putting
Stop.
it deeper
You're
in my
moving your
ear. You're putting
ear.
it deeper in my ear.
No, I'm not.
Talk, Jay.
Okay, pull it out.
Wait,
Pull it out,
wait,
pull it out.
it's
You
coming
can't suck
out.
it dry. You can't suck it dry.
That's it.
Okay.
Out, pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Fuck!
Anyways, let's move on to some rapid fire fun facts about cauliflower ear. Number 1, the vast majority of women can't get cauliflower ear because they tend to have softer cartilage in their ears that's more bendy and flexible and doesn't get damaged the same way as it does for men. Take 2022 ADCC champion Amy Campo, who has very limited damage to her ears in comparison to all of the male champions at the event. Number 2, some people think of cauliflower ear as a badge of honor that only comes with putting in hours of time and hard work on the mat. But in reality, a lot of people train their entire lifetime and don't get a single ounce of swelling in their ears, while others take a couple jiu-jitsu or wrestling classes and end up with massive cauliflower ears that last the rest of their lives. Number 3, aside from combat sports like judo, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu where you'd expect to see cauliflower ear, it's also highly prevalent in rugby because of all of the head-on-head collisions with the ears that are uncovered and they don't wear helmets. If the same were true for American football and NFL players didn't wear helmets, your fantasy team would be looking like a veggie salad. Number 4, here are a few examples of top combat athletes who surprisingly have no or very little cauliflower ear. Gable Stevenson, Hodger Gracie, Tim Kennedy, Tynan Dalpra, Brian Ortega. Number 5, here's the exact opposite. It's pretty much a list of the worst cauliflower ear you'll ever see. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Colby Covington, Alexander Gustafsson, Conor McGregor, Gary Tonin. Number 6, and this one's more of a theory that I have because I haven't found too much actual fact to back it up, but I really think someone should look into it, and that's that people who start training at a very young age tend to have less of a chance of getting cauliflower ear when they're older. I noticed this when I first started training, where people who had been training since they were little kids and trained their entire life didn't have as much cauliflower ear as some of the others. And I noticed this pattern continuing as I started to watch the pro scene from guys like the Ruotolo brothers. These are two of the best jiu-jitsu players in the entire world, and they started training when they were pretty much in diapers. But even today, they don't have a speck of growth on their ears. Further, another jiu-jitsu athlete, Cole Abate, who's a young prodigy and started training from a very young age, as well as a top wrestler like Nick Suriano, who also started training at a young age, and none of these guys have anything on their ears at all. Again, this is just a theory and it doesn't hold true for everyone because guys like Mikey Musumeci exist, who has a pretty gnarly ear himself, and he started training just as young as these other guys. But I think getting used to the folding and bending and trauma to your ears at a young age could save you from getting cauliflower ear down the line in the future. Number 7, it took smashing his ear with a UFC belt and using a meat mallet with Jorge Masvidal for Steve-O to achieve his goal of obtaining cauliflower ear without training. Not really a badge of honor, but I guess that's pretty cool. Number 8, cauliflower ear was given its name because of the first person in the modern age that was officially diagnosed with the condition. This was Robert Vance in the early 1900s, who was both a cauliflower farmer and a fighter by trade. His specialization in grappling and wrestling is what caused him to get pretty crazy cauliflower ear, and hence the term. Number 9, fact number 8 was completely false. Yeah, I just completely made that one up. I don't know how they came up with the name, and I don't even know if cauliflower farmers are a real thing. And I also stole the name Robert Vance from The Office.
Bob Vance, Vance Refrigeration.
Number 10. According to a 2015 study published in the National Library of Medicine, cauliflower ear was found to increase the risk of hearing loss, and even found that wrestlers with cauliflower ear had an increased history of previous ear infections. They surveyed a sample of wrestlers with 1 damaged ear, 2 damaged ears, and no damaged ears, and performed audiometric examinations and looked at things like earwax production to determine a significantly higher amount of complications for people with cauliflower ears than without. Because of the study's findings, they also recommended that more athletes should be wearing headgear in the training room, but we're not going to do that. Back in 1989, the suspicion that the deformity could be harmful was growing, so they made headgear mandatory for any sanctioned training rooms all the way up to the collegiate level, which is why you still see headgear in amateur wrestling competitions today. These guys are even supposed to wear headgear in the training room, but I don't know if I'm buying that it's that protective when you look at some of these guys' ears, and when you consider that the thing doesn't even work that well. It always seems to be getting in the way or falling off of people. And although I've never tried it myself, I've heard of people having even worse damage done to their ears because the thing slips around and pinches them. There are also products out there that supposedly treat the bumps if you really want to get rid of them, like Caulicure, which I think are essentially just magnets that you put over the affected area after you've drained it. And apparently if you're doing it right after it's swollen up, it works pretty well. But the problem is you've got to do it over and over again, and if you keep training, it's just going to keep swelling up. So at the end of the day, all you can really do is be conscious of your ears when you're training. And let's be honest, if you're avoiding certain moves to protect your ears, you're probably not going to be doing that well, and this sport probably isn't for you. But if you're accepting the consequences of training all out and end up looking like Dumbo just to win a silver medal at a local jiu-jitsu competition, I'm with you, and let's rock those ears proudly. So if you're out there with cauliflower ear and you see another brother with the cauli, make sure you say what's up. They might not hear you, but do it anyways.